Hey everyone, and welcome back. You know how it is, you're craving a little pick-me-up and you're thinking, coffee or tea?
It's like our own personal debate, right?
Totally. But what if I told you that your genes might actually have a say in which one you reach for?
I bet that caught your attention.
It's true. We're diving deep today into an article called Coffee or Tea? What your DNA says about your preference.
We're talking taste, genes, and all the fascinating science behind why you might be team coffee or team tea.
So before we get into the nitty-gritty of genes, let's start with the basics. How does taste even work?
Okay, so imagine this. You take a sip of your drink, and bam, all these tiny chemical compounds hit your tongue.
It's a flavor explosion.
Exactly, and those chemicals, they interact with your taste buds, which are like these tiny little receptors.
Kind of like antennas picking up signals.
That's a great way to put it. Those taste receptors send signals to your brain, and your brain's like, ooh, that's sweet, or whoa, that's bitter.
So it's all about how our brains interpret those signals.
Right. We've got 5 basic tastes: sweet, sour, bitter, salty, and umami, which is that savory taste you get from things like mushrooms.
5 basic tastes, but endless possibilities.
And when it comes to coffee and tea, one of the biggest factors is how sensitive we are to bitterness.
Oh, some of us need that extra sugar in our coffee.
And that's where genes come in. There's this gene called TS2R38, and it basically determines how strongly you perceive bitterness, especially the kind found in coffee.
Hold on, so there's actually a gene that decides if we think coffee tastes super bitter or not?
You got it. Think of TS2R38 like a volume knob for bitterness. Some people have it cranked up high, and others, well, they barely notice it.
Which explains why my friend can drink black coffee like it's water, and I'm over here like, pass the cream and sugar.
Exactly. And this, my friend, is just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to how our genes influence our drink preferences.
So we're talking about this bitterness sensitivity, right? Like, are you the type who loves those super strong dark roast coffees?
Some people, they can't get enough of them.
Meanwhile, I'm perfectly happy with my iced coffee, extra sweet.
It's like our genes are playing a big role in what we gravitate towards. You know, if you think about it, there are so many types of coffee out there.
Oh, tell me about it. You've got your light roasts, dark roasts, single origin blends.
It's a whole world of coffee, and someone with that bitterness volume turned way down, they're probably the ones trying all the most intense roasts.
They're like coffee explorers, seeking out the boldest flavors.
Exactly. They can appreciate all those nuances that others, well, they might find it a bit overwhelming.
It's like having a superpower palette. But speaking of superpowers, what about caffeine?
Ah, yes. Caffeine, another area where your genes play a fascinating role.
Okay, so walk me through this.
So remember how we talked about that CYP1A2 gene?
Yeah, the one that's like a coffee grinder in our system.
That's the one. Well, this gene determines how quickly your body breaks down caffeine.
So some of us process it really quickly, and others, not so much.
Exactly. Some people are like, espresso after dinner, no problem.
Yeah.
They metabolize it super fast.
And then there are those of us who have 1 cup in the morning and we're buzzing all day long.
Sounds familiar.
Maybe. But seriously, it's wild how differently our bodies handle caffeine.
It really is. And it's not just about how much coffee you drink, but also how it makes you feel. Some people, they get energized, focused.
And others are bouncing off the walls.
Right. It's all thanks to our unique genetic makeup. But, not everyone's a coffee person.
True that. Some of us prefer a calmer, more soothing experience. Enter tea.
Exactly. Now, tea generally has a much milder flavor profile than coffee.
Way less intense, for sure.
And this is often why people who are really sensitive to bitterness, they find tea much more enjoyable.
Like a warm hug for your taste buds.
And there's something else really interesting about tea. It has this amazing amino acid called L-theanine.
L-theanine. Wait, isn't that the one that's supposed to be super relaxing?
Got it. And it's naturally found in tea leaves.
So that feeling of zen you get with a warm cup of tea.
It's not just in your head. The L-theanine is actually working its magic along with your genes that are primed for it.
So it's like tea has this built-in relaxation factor courtesy of L-theanine. But I gotta ask, does this mean we're stuck with our genetically programmed drink destiny?
Well, not necessarily. Our genes might set the stage, but they don't write the whole play,
Right, like they give us the ingredients, but we get to decide the recipe.
Exactly. It's nature and nurture working together, just like we talked about earlier.
So even if someone's genes are saying go for the bitter coffee, their upbringing might steer them in a different direction.
Absolutely. Like imagine someone who grew up in a family that loves tea. Every morning it's Earl Grey, chamomile, maybe a little green tea in the afternoon.
They might be genetically predisposed to love coffee, but their habit is all about that tea life.
Exactly. Environment and upbringing can be super influential when it comes to taste. Or even think about social situations, like maybe you have a friend who's really into oolong tea.
And you're like, oolong, what even is that?
Right. But then you try it and you're like, wow, this is actually pretty amazing.
Suddenly you're an oolong convert.
It's amazing how our tastes can change and adapt based on our experiences.
So it's this cool mix of what we're wired for and what we're exposed to that creates our unique taste preferences.
Exactly. And that's what makes this whole conversation so fascinating. It's not just one thing. It's this complex interplay of factors that makes us who we are.
Right down to our favorite drinks. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing we want our listeners to remember?
Your love for coffee or tea, it's a reflection of you, your genes, your experiences, all of it.
It's like that morning cup. It's not just a drink, it's a little glimpse into your own personal story.
And hey, maybe this deep dive will inspire you to get a little adventurous with your taste buds. If you're a coffee person, try a new tea. Or if you're all about tea, maybe give that cold brew another shot.
You never know, you might just surprise yourself.
Exactly. And most importantly, keep exploring. Stay curious.
That's a wrap on this week's deep dive into the world of coffee, tea, and the fascinating genetics of taste. Thanks for joining us.